Hey everyone, welcome back to the Daily Tri. My name's Travis if you're new here, and I'm a huge fan of the sport of triathlon, hoping to make this your YouTube hub for triathlon news and media. So with that said, let's get right into our weekly news update, and we've got lots to talk about. Today we're looking at Jan Frodeno's schedule that was posted right after I made my news video last week. You've probably seen it, but there's lots more that entails, and I want to look through it with you. Especially with the PTO European Tour being announced to take place in Ibiza in the beginning of May. Also, Super League Triathlon is back this weekend. We'll take a closer look into what's going on there and how to watch it live. Plus, Super League is expanding and we have to talk about that. We've also got Challenge Wanaka results to go over. And finally, we're going to take a look at why Gustav is a little stressed and why he probably won't get to race Jan this year. We've also got so much more, so stay tuned. As always, we've got 5 minutes on the clock. Here we go. All right, so we have to start with our main headline, and that is Jan Frodeno's schedule.
Here we go, finally, time to talk about racing.
If you haven't seen it already, well, here it is. He's got 5 big races on the calendar, although Ironman did a really sneaky job of disguising the fact that he was even racing at the PTO events, and those are fighting words if you ask me. And of course, it would start around Jan Frodeno. He's the most valuable person in triathlon, and I believe he's going to race a little bit more than these 5 events. My intuition tells me he's going to be a surprise headline for Challenge Roth, and that he'll also make it to the Collins Cup in November. However, we've got these events to look through, and we're starting off with Ironman's 70.3 Oceanside coming up in just over a month. Really pumped for that event, and we'll get to see him race the likes of Lionel Sanders and Ben Canute. I think it'll be a good start for him, and the best thing about Jan is that he's always off the front of the race on the swim and the bike. So even if he's not at his best, we'll still get to see him challenging at the front of the race for a long time. Then, a month later, he's heading to the PTO European Open, which has been announced to be in Ibiza, but he might have to go through the Norwegians or just one of them, and we'll get to that later on in the show. So from the European Open, he's heading to Ironman Hamburg, a really important historical race on the Ironman calendar. It's also an extremely fast course, so maybe Jan is looking to take an Ironman official record there in his last year. Who knows? From there, Jan's heading back to the US for a crack at the PTO US Open, and then from that race, he'll be taking on the Ironman World Championships in Nice, and I'm so glad he decided to race the World Champs. I don't know about you guys, it wouldn't have felt the same if he didn't go. I know it was on the fence because it was announced that Kona wouldn't be taking place, so good to see that he'll be racing there, and we've just seen him post about listening to French music recently and getting him hyped up and motivated, so I think we'll see Jan in pretty good shape. Also, he posted that he's running in zone 2 at 3:20 per kilometer pace. So I think Jan is fitter than we might have expected. And we know with him announcing these races, when Jan shows up, he's looking to win, especially in the last year of his career. He's not going there to get second place, and he's got it a lot to defend. These Norwegians and the younger generation have been downplaying the older generation lately, and there's been a lot of talk about the new generation completely crushing the older generation. So I think there's a chip on the shoulder for a lot of those triathletes out there. Okay then, so we're going back to the fact that PTO European Open is taking place in Ibiza in just a few months, and there's much more involved with that news than first meets the eye. First, it's going to take place alongside World Triathlon's multi-sport festival. So again, it looks like they won't be putting on another age group race. Singapore seems to be the only one that the PTO is going to put on themselves, and they'll have the World Triathlon take over the age group racing portion of that. And then the big news that came with that announcement is that the prize purses have been reduced for all the PTO events from $1 million to $600,000, with the winner still taking home $100,000, but all the following positions have their total prizes reduced. And then for me, even bigger than the prize purse reduction is the limited number of athletes that are able to compete at these events. We know the PTO has been really focused on making this a media product that they can give to broadcasters, and they seem to focus on that even more, with only now 20 to 30 athletes being able to compete at these events. That means that the PTO rankings mean even more it's even more difficult to get into these events, and it's going to be far more competitive. The PTO US Open and the PTO European Open will only host 30 athletes for the male and the female, while the Asian Open in Singapore is only going to have 20 athletes. So that's some big news for the PTO. What does that signify, especially with the reduction in price? Well, they've said that it makes the PTO more sustainable going forward as they look to expand. So hopefully it's not a sign of gloomy things, but it is definitely interesting. What do you guys think about the reduced number of slots available to the pro athletes and them making this an even more exclusive event? Could be good, it could be bad. I know I love the PTO Edmonton with 50 athletes. It did feel like a big World Championship event. I wonder if reducing the field of athletes will make it just a little bit less epic of an event. Maybe it'll look good on the broadcast, but will it look good for those there in person? Just curious thoughts. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. And finally, that takes us to the headline news that probably caught your attention, and that is why Gustav is a little stressed right now and why he probably won't get to race Jan. And that's from a podcast I heard from Sweat Elite, where he interviewed both the Norwegians, and Gustav admitted to being a little stressed because he's further behind in the Olympic qualification system than Christian is, which means he's going to have to focus on the short course racing for now and probably not able to race the PTO events. This means that he probably won't get a chance to race Jan either, like Christian on the other hand, who said it would be his first time racing Jan. Hopefully this is not set in stone, and I would think Jan would hope that too, as Gustav took his Ironman World Championship title, and I'm sure he would have loved to beat him. For now, he's just going to have to settle for beating Christian if he can, and I mean, the #1 world rank might sound good too. I would love to make a video that explained in further detail what their Olympic qualification system looked like and what it looks like for other athletes, because to be honest, I don't have much of a clue, and I would like to do some research while I made that video. All right, and then heading over from the PTO to Super League, and we've got Montreal kicking off this Saturday. We said Lionel's racing there last week, but we've also got some other great names as well, including Jackson Laundry, who's dropping down in the distance. Henry Skuman is going to be the odds-on favorite for this race, although he is coming back from injury. But this guy's a former bronze medalist at the Olympic Games. He should take the win here comfortably. But there's also a Frenchman who did really well at the Arena Games last year, so make sure you keep a close eye on him as well. The broadcast starts pretty late for all my European viewers, but 5:30 local time. There are 2 heats before the broadcast that will take place, so hopefully we get some of those big names making it through to the broadcast. Those will be the top 5 from each of those heats. Will go through to the final, and it is going to be a fun format where it's going to be swim, bike, run for the first stage, and then run, bike, swim for the second stage. And then for the final stage, for the final of the final, it's going to be a pursuit style. So whatever you got over those first 2 stages is how you'll start on the final stage. So if you did well in those first 2 stages and you went all out, you buy yourself a little bit of time in the final. However, if you go too hard and only buy yourself a little bit of time, it might not have been worth it. So I'm really excited to watch that race, but we also had even bigger news come out from the Super League, where they're expanding more into the US. They've taken over Lifestyle Chicago and New York City triathlons. The goal is to make triathlon short course cool again in the US, and I think Super League really is the company to do that. They really know how to market and brand and make excellent media, so I'm thinking they could do a great job with this. I feel like triathlon is growing over here, and having Super League push it even more is fantastic for the future, especially for short course racing. And onto the final brand of racing for this week, we've got the Challenge Wanaka results to go over. And this was a weekend of racing over in New Zealand. And in the middle distance race, it was Jack Moody who took the victory in a pretty decent field here, including the likes of Sebastian Kienle. Jack Moody is making a name for himself recently with some great results, and this young athlete seems to be one we should keep an eye out on for the future. Kienle would have hoped for a little better than this result on his discontinued tour, but after not feeling well leading up into the race, I'm sure he'll be happy with third place. On the women's side, it was Grace Theck, another name we should probably be looking out for, who took the victory over there. And on the short course side of things, it was Kyle Smith who made the big headline there on his return to short course racing, finishing it in second place in a dramatic close finish, where he actually finished ahead of his compatriot and Tokyo Olympic Games competitor Taylor Reed, as well as Jacob Birtwistle, who was also at the Tokyo Olympic Games. So this must be really encouraging for Kyle Smith, who's making the big transition back down, looking to do something similar to what the Norwegians have been doing, and we'll have to see how he continues along throughout the season. He did share a couple of great images from the event showing just how hard that transition might be. But Challenge Wanaka really does seem like a bucket list festival to attend, and I can see why Sebastian Kienle put that on his discontinued tour. That's the main news for the week, but I wanted to leave you with the announcement that Laura Philipp is going to be racing in Ironman South Africa alongside Alistair Brownlee like we saw last week. And in my opinion, this is going to be a fantastic race for her, as she's going to have to beat Fenella Langridge, who's also on the start list. Fenella is a fantastic swim biker, as we saw in Kona this year, as she rode with Lucy Charles Barkley for the whole ride. And I think that's going to be fantastic to see Laura having to come from behind in order to beat Fenella. And we'll have to see how she takes out those demons that she has from Kona, where she got that 5-minute penalty. I think she's going to do well, but it's going to be a tough one for her. And I think it's one that we all don't want to miss. So that's the end of this week's show. There's actually so much more news that I would have liked to have shared. I'll have to save it for the next video if I can. I'm just running a little short on time. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoy these. I love making them, and I really want to make them more professional in the future as I get more time and opportunity to do so. I've also been starting that video editing on the side, and I've had a few of you reach out already, and that's been fantastic to do. So if any more of you would like some video editing help, just reach out to me on Instagram or either by email or in the comments below. So thank you guys so much. I hope to see a lot of you at some of the races this year. And as always, have a good one. We'll see you in the next one. Bye. So this is Jan's final year as a pro. So this is Jan's first year. Okay. Oh my goodness. So this is Jan's I can't do it. I just can't. So this is Jan's
first full year.
So Jan, if you could just come over here and do this for me, because I'm struggling right now. Okay. So this is Jan's final full year as a pro triathlete.